Here now with reaction, Power of the Future founder and executive director Daniel Turner. A landmark ruling from the Supreme Court, but this is how quickly it potentially could bear fruit, not just for ConocoPhillips, but for the people of Alaska and for the nation.
Absolutely. And I have a special love for Alaska. I go to Alaska quite a bit. I don't think there is any state in the union that is more of a political tool and a political weapon than Alaska. Every member of Congress likes to pass legislation protecting Alaska, banning Alaska, stopping Alaska from doing this. And you speak to the Alaskans, they want to develop responsibly oil, gas, coal, minerals, natural resources. They don't want us to buy these things from China. They don't want us to buy these things with slave labor from sub-Saharan Africa. Yet the Biden administration and previous administrations have prevented Alaska from responsibly opening up. And so this is a wonderful step in the right direction.
So pull at your crystal ball. We look at this Supreme Court decision on Chevron deference. What impact is this going to have on companies' ability to explore, whether it's in the Gulf or in Alaska? What impact?
Yeah, and it's not just energy, it's in every single sector, but in energy and specifically, when you have these huge pieces of legislation like the Clean Air Act, where there's not a very narrow defined scope. What is clean? What are particulate matter? What is a greenhouse gas? All that is left to the interpretation of unelected bureaucrats. In every administration, it shifts. So if you're an oil and gas company or you're trying to open a coal mine, well, is that a particulate matter? Is that a greenhouse gas? Who knows? Fines come out of nowhere. Permits are held out of nowhere because there's no clear path. And so the Chevron decision says it's not up for unelected bureaucrats to interpret that. It's up for the Congress. And you have to put specific language in so that businesses can operate. So this is wonderful that businesses say, hey, look, we will protect the Clean Air Act, but you cannot redefine it every 5 minutes to thwart our trying to operate in your state.
And it also prevents the courts from kicking it back and saying, oh, we can't make any decision about it, and kicking it back to the bureaucrats themselves.
Exactly.
And that's what opened the door for Chevron.
Yeah, and this is the weaponization of government in the worst form. And think about even other industries like Obamacare. Who gets Obamacare? Well, it's up for a bureaucrat to decide. The Biden administration says everybody gets Obamacare. I bet you a Trump administration would say, no, it's a narrow citizens get Obamacare. So when you have these huge pieces of legislation that bureaucrats interpret, you have chaos. And we cannot operate in chaos anymore.
Right, because the rules continue to change with administrations, to your point. But again, Democrats talk about democracy a lot. And a lot of the rules that these agencies pass, they could never pass the Congress because the constituents of the members would lose their minds because they want to drive a gas-powered car. They don't want to be forced into an EV. So I do think, again, if you care about democracy, this is a great decision.
Absolutely, because it's the Congress that makes these rules, and it's not a bunch of unelected folks. And you raised a great point. The Green New Deal, in its original language, the authors never even introduced it as legislation. They didn't even want to bring it up for a vote, but they want bureaucrats to do their dirty work for them, and that's coming to an end.
Moving to this, speaking of electric vehicles, Harvard Business School admits that the Biden's forced transition to electric vehicles through the mandate, the tailpipe emissions regulation, turns out to be a total bust. There's a new study that shows electric vehicle chargers are only reliable 78% of the time, meaning about 1 out of 5 stations don't even work properly, and that charging costs are like the Wild West, with many stops failing to disclose the pricing. These are the ones that exist. The VAT, how many $7 billion plus that it just kind of went. Where is it? Because it didn't go to building the charging stations. But this is one of the reasons that this will fail.
This is what's going to happen when government decides to get involved in industry that it has no business being in. When Pete Buttigieg was asked, Secretary Buttigieg was asked in that Meet the Press interview, you spent $7.5 billion. You've only built 7 or 8 charging stations, but he promised 500,000. If they've spent 7 or 8 billion, I tried to use my phone calculator and there wasn't enough space for the zeros. If $7.5 billion only built 7 and he wants to build 500,000 of them, we're talking trillions of dollars to build these stupid things that no one wants.
No one wants. Daniel Turner, always great to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right. Coming up.